Hello there, my name is Lunar Love. Welcome to a new and very special video on my channel. Today is the day that I finally release my hit piece on the monks. The day that I finally expose them for the lying monsters they are. But before we get into that, I just want to say a little disclaimer. First and foremost, even though I do believe this theory, it is in fact just a theory. Therefore, if you don't believe it or don't agree, that's completely fine. You don't have to agree, though I do ask that you hear me out completely before trying to dispel my arguments. Secondly, please keep in mind that a lot of this theory hinges on thinking from the perspective of actually living in the world of Breath of the Wild, specifically living as Link himself in the world of Breath of the Wild. I'll be calling a lot of gameplay mechanics and the like into question for this theory. I'm aware that this is a video game, and video game mechanics exist for funsies. However, in that specific perspective, they are suspicious. So please just bear that in mind throughout this video. I'm not unaware nor dismissing that it's inevitably all just a game. Also, just want to say up front that Age of Calamity isn't going to be acknowledged in this video because it didn't really bring anything relevant to the table regarding this specific theory. At least nothing I felt was compelling enough to use for evidence. Final thing I just want to say is to please like the video if you wind up enjoying it. It would really mean a lot to me. And also please consider subscribing as well. I don't know how common videos like this will be in the future since this is currently the only thorough theory I really have, but I will be doing a full playthrough of Breath of the Wild after this video goes out, so if that's something you'd be interested in, then please do subscribe. Now then, with that out of the way, allow me to present my case for why I don't trust the monks and you shouldn't either. Let's start with where it all begins, shall we? Of course, we most specifically start in the Shrine of Resurrection, though there isn't much to it that warrants questioning. The only rather curious part of it is the fact that Link awakens in such a weak state. Yes, he clearly almost died during the fall of Fort Hateno, but I assume the 28 to 30 hearts and 3 stamina wheels that the player can work their way up towards represents the state he was in prior to his defeat. After 100 years, you'd think far more strength would have been returned to him, no? Maybe not all of it, but more than he has. Seems to me that right away Link is being set at a disadvantage. I also find the specific usage of essence by the demon statue to refer to Link's hearts and stamina to be quite intriguing, as well as the fact that these are obtained through spirit orbs. The fact shrines even end with the things required to regain his essence is in and of itself curious, but I digress. That is quite strange, but it is not related to what makes the Great Plateau strange. What I want to focus on specifically is the scene we are greeted with once we exit the Shrine of Resurrection, the shot that pans over the beautiful land of Hyrule. There's something odd about this shot. Have you ever caught on to what it is? It is the focal point, the one place that is specifically placed to always remain in the player's mind, Hyrule Castle. See, when you first start the game, something is missing. The malice. There is no malice encircling the castle when you first start a new save file in Breath of the Wild. Is that not peculiar? The malice enhances the foreboding feeling the castle exudes, yet it is absent until a specific moment. What moment is that, you ask? Once you make your way to the Great Plateau Tower and activate it, 2 cutscenes play. The cutscene that shows that tower, along with all the others rising from the ground, and the cutscene where Zelda gives a briefing of the current situation circumstance. It is the latter cutscene that triggers the appearance of the malice around Hyrule Castle. One of the cutscenes that follows the activation of the Sheikah technology is what leads to the malice appearing around Hyrule Castle? Quite conveniently coincidental, isn't it? There's no true reason for it not being there prior. Perhaps it's to allude to the explanation that these are things meant to aid the hero's quest in defeating Calamity Ganon and are said to be alerted by his presence? But I don't know. It's strange to have the malice that should have been surrounding the castle for the last 100 years, and was shown to have appeared when Calamity Ganon awakened, not show itself until the specific action of activating the Sheikah technology is committed. It was a deliberate decision that immediately starts us off with suspicious implications. Once we access the Great Plateau Tower, we also unlock the shrines. So, let's discuss them, shall we? The shrines in Breath of the Wild are presented as structures created by the monks in order to train the hero for his fight with Calamity Ganon. But riddle me this. How do they do that? No, really, I mean it. In what manner do the shrines actually contribute to training Link for his fight with Calamity Ganon? There are only 3 specific shrine types that I feel actually do this. The Great Plateau shrines, obviously, for providing Link with the runes and training him in how to use them. Blessing shrines for serving as a way to learn and understand the world around him, which I feel is important as it familiarizes him with the land he's intended to save. And strength test shrines for acting as training sessions for combat. Outside of those specific shrine types, how do the others actually aid his training for Calamity Ganon? Especially when there are many elements within shrines that only appear within shrines. For example, the specific spikes you'll find in many shrines, they're exclusive to shrines. What good does that do for Link? There are no spikes when he fights Calamity Ganon, at least none like that. So what gives? Why would these things that allegedly exist to aid Link's training for Calamity Ganon include things that are irrelevant to his fight with Calamity Ganon? Lest we also forget the concerning reality that Link can die in shrines. Like, completely. You can game over within a shrine. That's quite disconcerting to me. Shrines are something that only Link himself can access. If he was on the verge of dying in a shrine, nobody would go to save him. Nobody could. The world would be damned even more so than it already has been. Which leads to the fact that, look, okay, shrines are fucking death traps. That's their real purpose. I cannot be convinced otherwise of this. Let's just go over some types of shrines' interiors, shall we? We have shrines that act as platformers surrounded by bottomless voids that Link would never be seen or heard from again if he fell in them. Shrines with those cursed spikes I just mentioned previously, including my personal most hated shrine, Stop to Start, which entails Link having to traverse a barrage of puzzles where these spikes are present with one fucking hit point to his name. Another shrine that is a combination of those where you have to traverse through a maze of spikes and then a flimsy metal platform held up by balloons that you control with the Korok leaf. Shrines where if Link does not move in time, he will go hurtling towards a block of spikes that would be quite a graphic death. Multiple shrines where gigantic rolling balls, sometimes spiked gigantic rolling balls, hurtle towards him and can either crush him, land him in a pit of lava, or bottomless void, and many other confusing and horrifying when truly thought about ventures. How the absolute fuck do any of these help Link when they can so easily result in his demise? They aren't relevant to fighting Calamity Ganon at all. How does that fucking navigate through the spikes using a Korok leaf to control this flimsy metal platform held up by easily poppable balloons shrine aid his fight with Calamity Ganon? It doesn't. What does golf have to do with fighting Calamity Ganon? Fuck all, that's what. They do not, in the grand scheme of things, aid the hero at all in his quest to fight Calamity Ganon, outside of the reward obtained for completing them. All they do is serve as a distraction at best and a ticket to his own defeat at worst. Speaking of that worst, another suspiciously noteworthy shrine is actually one of Cass's, under a red moon. When the moon bleeds and the fiends are reborn, the monks will invite you as they have sworn. But first you must stand on the pedestal bare, with nothing between you and the night air. The solution to unlocking this shrine is to have Link stand on the podium with nothing but his undergarments on as a blood moon rises. How do the monks know about blood moons? Why do they know about blood moons? And why would they be forcing Link to be in his most vulnerable state during one? As Zelda herself describes, Ganon's power peaks during a blood moon. Why is there a shrine involved with one of the most prominent symbols for Ganon? And, to make matters even more damning, that's not the only time blood moons are relevant regarding shrines. Again, quoting Zelda,
"By its glow, the aimless spirits of monsters slain in the name of the light return to flesh."
Do you know what's included in these aimless spirits of monsters slain in the name of the light? The Guardian Scouts that appear in strength test shrines. Which, quite interestingly enough, a strength test shrine is the resulting shrine that appears once this particular cast shrine quest is complete, as opposed to the usual blessing shrine that appears after you complete a cast shrine quest. I find this to be incredibly damning, especially with all the other questionable factors surrounding strength test shrines. As previously mentioned, strength test shrines are a breed of shrine that I do think is actually beneficial to aiding Link's fight with Ganon. They serve as combat training shrines, with the intended first version of them being Kakariko Village's main shrine, which is literally a training session for combat. So outside of the aforementioned respawn during the blood moon, what makes one of the few beneficial things the monks do for Link suspicious? Well, different shrines cause for different messages to be received by the monks upon the shrine's completion. For example, upon completing your first shrine, the monk at the end will say, "You have proven to possess the resolve of a true hero," their name and noting that they are the creator of the trial. "I am a humble monk, blessed with the sight of goddess Hylia, and dedicated to helping those who seek to defeat Ganon. With your arrival, my duty is now fulfilled." And then they give you your spirit orb and of course depart with "May the goddess smile upon you." When you defeat a normal shrine, they will say, "Your resourcefulness in overcoming this trial speaks to the promise of a true hero." Nothing too strange, right? However, when you defeat a strength test shrine, they will say this: "Your triumph over the test of strength subverts a prophecy of ruin. From the ashes of Hyrule, a hero rises." Now that is incredibly suspect and ominous wording. Defeating a guardian subverts a prophecy of ruin, huh? Quite interesting when you consider the fact that 100 years ago, Link was defeated by none other than a guardian. Let's talk about that, shall we? Breath of the Wild Link is absolutely a force to be reckoned with. His power, especially once you complete all the shrines, is not something to be taken lightly. The few glimpses we get of his past self only enhance this. There is a section in Daruk's diary that notes that Link was able to quickly use a pot lid to deflect a guardian's laser, for example, which would take a lot of strength to do, and there are many other examples from past characters' diaries and showcasings in his memories that note Link's strength. The one recollection of his past in particular that I'd like to draw attention to, though, is the memory that takes place upon Elden Mountain. In that memory, the camera pans over a horde of monster corpses, leading to Zelda scolding Link for being so reckless as to take on all of those monsters by himself. These monsters include multiple Silver Lionels, the most powerful overworld enemies in the game. Keep in mind that all we ever see Link with inside these memories is the Master Sword, the not even fully powered Master Sword. He has no shield, not even a bow on his person in these scenes, and yet he was able to take out all of those enemies while getting away with one single scratch. Link was incredibly powerful in the past, there's no question about it. Overworld monsters were absolutely nothing to him, clearly. Guardians, however, Guardians are a different story. I don't know if you've ever tried to fight a Guardian with just the underpowered Master Sword, but it is not an easy task by any means. It is tedious and takes forever, and having to go through that for an entire horde of them would definitely lend to weighing someone down. The best way to defeat Guardians are through shield parries and shooting them in the eye with an ancient arrow, though any kind of arrow can be effective for a stunning eye shot if you're in a pinch. Those options, though, were not available to Link in the past. As previously mentioned, he did not carry a shield, he did not carry a bow. I don't think ancient arrows were even available to him in the past, and even if they were, there would never be enough to take on that many Guardians at once. Suffice to say, Link was doomed from the start when the world was overtaken by Guardians. If they had never been unleashed, he probably could have won quite easily just fighting overworld monsters. But with none of the most efficient tactics to killing Guardians available to him, his downfall was inevitable. And thus, ruin was laid upon the world in his wake, with much of the land of Hyrule being left to burn to ash. Just like the monks say at the end of those strength test shrines. Wow, what a concept, huh? This means that the monks knew this would happen to some degree. How convenient. You would think they would have done more with this knowledge, but it seems they actively used it to sabotage Link. How, you ask? Well, let's talk about that underpowered Master Sword, shall we? The trial of the sword is one of my absolute favorite parts of the game, and it is probably one of the most useful things the monks grant Link, as it lends immensely to teaching him crucial combat skills and other ways he can help himself in a pinch, like using elemental weapons to traverse through elemental areas. However, in spite of that, the very concept of trial of the sword is quite odd. Once all 3 sets of shrines are completed, Link is led to the final room of the temple he finds himself in after each round. In this room, multiple monks rest, and they have a message for him. "You have done well. The depth of your heroism is beyond question. We are the ones who prepared this trial, following a revelation from the goddess Hylia. To the one who has overcome the trial of the sword, you have proven your hand worthy of the legendary Master Sword. Now that the hero has gained the power necessary to combat the calamity, our sacred duty has been fulfilled. Chosen hero, with the awakened Master Sword now boasting its true splendor, protect the kingdom of Hyrule, for now and for always." Okay. Alright. Okay. So, How exactly did anyone, including Hylia according to the monks, think it was a good idea to suppress the Master Sword's true splendor until Link went through all that? Like, in what world is preventing the hero from having the power necessary to combat the calamity? The monks' own words, a good idea. And also, how the hell are the monks allowed to be so powerful as to suppress the Master Sword's power in the first place? Is that not weird? They were originally just Sheikah, right? Even though it's clear the Sheikah have somewhat more resilience than the average Hylian with their lifespan, their powers, and the apparent ability to create such technology, they are still not that far off from the average Hylian. So, what gives? Why are they allowed to mess with the power of a sword that was made for the specific purpose of sealing the darkness? How and why are they allowed to be so powerful? And also, here they are again with direct acknowledgement that they received a revelation from Hylia about the calamity. And instead of properly aiding the hero, they directly sabotaged him. The fully powered Master Sword could have helped him out a lot, I'm sure, but he was held back from having it. What revelation did they receive that lent it to thinking that holding back that power was a good thing instead of a detrimental setback? None, unless that detrimental setback was their intended outcome. We will circle back to points regarding further curiosity surrounding the monk's incomprehensible power, but there's something else odd within the trial of the sword that I want to address. Have you ever noticed that guardians have a different palette depending on which side is controlling them? In memories, shrines where guardian scouts are included, and in the trials during Champions Ballad, the guardians glow orange, an indication that they are currently free of corruption. Once they are corrupted, they glow Calamity Ganon's signature pink. Did you notice anything about the guardians inside of the Trial of the Sword? Did you notice the color they glow inside these trials created by the monks to prepare Link for his fight with Ganon? They glow Calamity Ganon's signature hot pink. In almost every other instance the monks had a role in controlling them, they are orange. So why are they pink in Trial of the Sword? Is that how far the revelation went? So in depth that they knew that the guardians would be corrupted and glow that signature hot pink? It's honestly incredibly concerning that guardians are even part of the trials in the first place. It just solidifies that the monks were aware their machines would become fellow monsters slain in the name of the light. And with that knowledge, they did nothing but choose to use this information to sabotage the hero? Yikes. That's a big old damning yikes for me. I'd like to draw attention to the fact that there's even more significance to the distinction of coloring though. And it's one of the most damning things against these fucks. Do you know what else glows the monk's signature orange glow? Yup, that's right. The main bosses of the game, Ganon's very own creations, and Calamity Ganon himself have the Sheikah technology they boast glowing not Calamity Ganon's signature hot pink, but the monk's signature orange. You would think that the Blights and Calamity Ganon himself would qualify as like the most corrupted things on the planet, right? You know, considering that they're literally the corruption itself. Yet, in spite of that, they do not glow the color of corruption. They glow the color of the people who are allegedly on Link's side. Why? Why would they be colored that way if that was not meant to be suspicious? Every other piece that is corrupted by Ganon, the Guardians, the Divine Beasts, hell, even Naedra, become pink, or otherwise in Naedra's case, a distorted palette when they are corrupted. But the technology the Blights and Calamity Ganon boast doesn't. The technology they wield is also rather peculiar, like, where the hell did they even get those from? Their headpieces and weapons never show up anywhere else in the game. There are multiple ancient Guardian weapons in the game, wielded by Guardian Scouts or crafted at Robbie's shop, but none of them resemble the Blights nor Calamity Ganon's weapons. Where the hell did Ganon get those from? Why are they nowhere else to be found? How did Ganon get them? There's also the suspicious fact that it seems like they can use certain runes. For example, Water Blight uses Cryonis. How the hell are they able to do that? Why are they able to do that? I assume that the champions had their own Sheikah slates that allowed them to control their divine beasts. I mean, they had to, right? So did the Blights take them from them? where are they then? Or did the Blights just naturally have the ability to control Sheikah technology because of the Sheikah technology they wear? The Blights also seem to have the ability to use some of the Champions' abilities, which is quite concerning when you consider the fact that emblems for their powers do exist in Champions' Ballad shrines. So the monks clearly have the ability to obtain their powers somehow. It's all just incredibly daunting, to be quite honest. I don't understand how any of this can be a thing without raising some incredibly concerning implications. Which, you know, speaking of raising concerning implications,
the signs of a resurrection of Calamity Ganon are clear, and the power to oppose it lies dormant beneath the ground.
that is something King Rome says in the cutscene that honors your completion of the Great Plateau. From here, he leads on to explain that they heeded these prophetic words and began to excavate the land in order to find the power that was spoken of. This led to the discovery of the divine beasts as well as the guardians, indeed buried in certain places underground. However, he curiously brings up something else that rose from beneath the ground.
He appeared from deep below Hyrule Castle, seized control of the Guardians and the Divine Beasts, and turned them against us.
Just like the Sheikah technology, including the towers, rose from beneath the ground, so too did Ganon himself. It seems he also knew of the plan to seal him prior to his resurrection, as he quite instantly enacted a damning plan of his own. It's almost as if he knew of these prophecies so constantly mentioned as well, and thus knew exactly how to seize their success in his defeat. Of course, he could have just learned his lesson from 10,000 years ago, but I find that strange. How would he truly know this one would resemble the one from 10,000 years ago without some semblance of granted knowledge? The monks go on so much about their revelations. Who's really to say not a single one granted Ganon their knowledge? Anyway, this parallel is a pretty strange one to have for no reason. I feel the distinct mention of Sheikah technology and Ganon rising from beneath the ground is a crucial thing. It seems as well in the brief trailer we got for Breath of the Wild sequel at E3 2019 that the body of Ganondorf is being sealed somewhere beneath the ground. And there's also the fact that the body of Ganondorf and the monks appear in that decayed, mummified form. Every other corpse we see throughout the game takes the form of a skeleton or pile of bones, or freshly defeated corpses like in the Elden Mountain cutscene. This decayed, mummified form is reserved solely for the monks and now Ganondorf. It's incredibly odd to me that these parallels between the enemy and the monks, especially ones that are this specific, are a thing. Could it be an allusion to them working together? Perhaps. There still lies more information to aid this theory. I mentioned earlier that I would discuss the monks' immense power and how strange it is. So, let's continue that conversation, shall we? Champions Ballad. Yet again, probably one of my favorite parts of the game. The return of Castaway Link's quest, as well as the additional insight into the champions, was quite a nice surprise to receive. However, I find the entire concept of many things involved with Champions Ballad to be, well, you already know, suspicious. Let's start with the first quest. The One-Hit Obliterator. The One-Hit Obliterator is a weapon created for its quest that can kill any enemy in one single hit. But in return, it drains the user's life force, so they are also vulnerable to dying within one single hit. Its damage is literally listed as infinity. It is quite clearly not something to be taken lightly, but okay. First of all, how the hell were the monks even able to create something like that in the first place? A weapon that deals infinite damage? What the fuck? That's automatically the most powerful weapon in the entire universe. It can kill anything in one single hit. Anything. So, you know, that probably, reasonably, would include Calamity Ganon, right? And yet, Link is not allowed to leave the Great Plateau with it. So, you're telling me that these fucks are allowed to create a weapon that can kill anything in one single hit, and they put Link through a trial wielding this weapon to aid his fight with Calamity Ganon, and yet they don't even let him take it to his fight with Calamity Ganon, when Calamity Ganon would not stand a single fucking chance against that shit. No one would. Again, I am left to ponder how that makes any sense outside of leading to them purposefully sabotaging him. Not to mention that the arena they create for this trial entails them summoning monsters and also guardians, who guess what fucking color they glow? That's right, Calamity Ganon's signature pink. They put Link through all of this, including shrines that are once again death traps, which by the way, this is the section of the game that the cursed shrine I mentioned earlier with all those fucking spikes is in, when he only has 1 hit point left to his name because of a weapon they created that can just instantly drain the user's entire life force. I cannot even fathom the absolute absurdity within all of that. I don't understand how they're allowed to get away with this, nor how any of this is actually gonna help Link fight Calamity Ganon when they won't even let him leave the Great Plateau with it. They created a weapon even more powerful than the motherfucking Master Sword. How? There's also the fact that you cannot access the quest until you defeat all of the Divine Beasts and actually purchase the DLC. You know, after you save them from corruption. Huh? Why? After the one-hit obliterator section, Link is led to a collection of trials, all involving the trials the champions had to face to qualify as Divine Beast pilots. Do you know how each of these sections end? A recreation of the Blight fights where you are restricted to what the champions were left with when they had to fight them. How the absolute fuck do they know that? They claim it's illusory realms they created by Link's fear, but Link wasn't there when the champions were defeated. That's why they were defeated. He was with Zelda. He had no way of knowing what the champions had on them when they got defeated. Besides, fighting the Blights himself would doubtfully be his fear. His actual fear would entail reliving the fact that he couldn't fight the Blights to save his friends. Having to witness their defeats firsthand would be his true fear. But that's not what happens. Instead, he has to fight the Blights alone once again, with only what the champions allegedly had on them at the time of their defeats. None of that adds up, and it is all incredibly concerning that the monks even had the ability to do this sort of thing. Either they can see into Link's mind to recreate these scenarios, which is the one they allege happened, access the champion's memories somehow, or they had a prophecy or revelation even for the goddamned Blights, and once again, did nothing but create all that useless shit. While getting familiarized again with the Blights is certainly helpful, it doesn't change the concerning implications their battle recreations indicate. And then, on top of everything else, the final boss of Champions Ballad is literally a goddamn monk. That's right, everything you've done leads to a monk literally trying to kill Link with his bare fucking hands. A monk who eerily shares attacks and abilities with the Blights and Koga, by the way. You know, all the fucking villains in the game. Maybe it's cause they're all part of the Sheikah and wield Sheikah technology, but come on, that doesn't make it any less off-putting. I rest my case. The monks are evil, they want Link dead, even going as far as to try to kill him with their own hands directly. Thank you for my motherfucking TED Talk. Alright, shits and giggles aside. In sincerity, where does this leave us? What does it all mean? Well, in my opinion, it means that a lot of what we're led to believe in Breath of the Wild regarding the monks, their intentions, and their role in everything is a lie. They use their blessing of having the side of Goddess Hylia not to aid the hero, but to lead him, and therefore the rest of Hyrule, to be left to ruinous ash. It makes sense. Maybe it was all a setup put in place as an act of revenge for their cruel treatment regarding their technology. That would definitely make sense as a motive when their technology could easily be seen as the act of revenge itself with the inquiries I presented prior. This all also makes me question the existence of something like the Yiga clan. Perhaps they're just a decoy, or direct foreshadowing that everything we think we know about the Sheikah tribe and their history has some discrepancies. We do know that some modern-day members of the Sheikah tribe at least understood where they were coming from, and we don't know when the Yiga clan was created, nor who created it. It's possible it was the monks themselves, especially when you consider the fact that there is a shrine very close to the Yiga clan hideout, and one inside it. Unless the Yiga clan hideout was originally some sacred ground for the Sheikah tribe that the Yiga clan claimed once they formed, that's a rather odd placement for shrines to be. Also, as briefly mentioned prior, Monk Ma's koshia can use Master Koga's abilities that are said by him to be passed down in his family. Of course, he could have just been exaggerating like his silly self, but come on, no other characters use these abilities but them, excluding the teleportation. It's yet another parallel that directly links them to the villains, and the more they pile up, the more suspicious it becomes. They were clearly aware of Ganon's inevitable resurrection, yet they did nothing truly useful to help combat him. Instead, in my opinion, they only served to make Ganon's job easier. I feel this is enhanced when the suspicious fact remains that when they sealed their technology away, they made the deliberate decision to seal it underground, the same place Calamity Ganon arose from, and the same place Ganondorf's corpse resides. Which, again, the monks and Ganondorf are the only ones who share that decayed, mummified form. Another thing I want to point out is the pillars surrounding Hyrule Castle, which housed the Guardians inside them. They were allegedly made to rise at the detection of Calamity Ganon's arrival. They knew his corruption would rot the land, that the Guardians would wreak it, yet they made something like the storage units for their mass laser beam wielding robot army so accessible for him. Maybe they weren't a warning. Maybe they were meant to serve as an aid for Ganon rather than the hero, like everything else I've mentioned. So, that all being said, what does this mean for the story going forward? More specifically, where does this lead us regarding Breath of the Wild 2 and its story? Well, if I'm right, it means that the story will probably entail Zelda and Link unraveling this truth, and result in the story as we know it in Breath of the Wild being completely turned on its head. I think that'd be an incredibly interesting path to take, but of course, I'm biased, and this is all just a theory. Perhaps it is all just a very convenient coincidence. No matter where you stand though, the shrines are still death traps, and Monk Ma's koshia still made an effort to kill Link with his bare hands, so screw him. Thank you so very much for watching if you made it to this point. This is probably the most ambitious video that I've created so far. Like I said in the beginning, I don't know if there will be many others like this, since I don't really have any other theories outside of this one, at least not ones with this amount of depth, but who knows? Maybe Breath of the Wild 2 will get me theorizing again, or a different game from the future. For now, I hope you enjoyed this video. I will be doing a full playthrough of Breath of the Wild, and will probably be pointing stuff out involved with this theory throughout it, so please do subscribe and hit the bell if that's something that you'd like to see. And also, you know, like the video if you had a nice time and comment any thoughts you have. I'm really interested to know if anyone agrees or if people just think I'm reaching. I hope you'll stick around for the Breath of the Wild series and everything I do in the future. Thank you so much for watching this video in the meantime. I'll see you next time.